whatever it is where you are, welcome to Tad Talk, Season 2, Episode 12. As you know, I've had a couple of days off, as Nick would say. What was it? I was sitting by the pool getting drunk in Mexico. Is that what he said I was doing? Not quite. I wasn't by the pool. I'm joking. I was quite sober, but yes, we did come to Mexico. But Nick did a great job. I discovered that he put some photographs on there. It was a little embarrassing, but I'll get him back for that at some point. Today we've got two wonderful guests. Let me introduce them to you. This is going to be a little steer away from entertainers, but it's going to be a blast. First of all, a man that I've known for quite some time. One of the most intelligent men I've ever met, let alone know. But talk about interesting. I've spent hours with him on ships, and he's one of the guys that you just want to sit, have a coffee, and just listen. He was the chief engineer on the space shuttle program. He's the chief engineer on the International Space Station. Many, many things that we'll be getting into. And welcome, my friend, Frank Buzzard. Frank, how are you?
Couldn't be better, Terry, and so nice to see you again. We had some wonderful times on cruise ships. I look forward to doing that again in the future. Absolutely.
And one of the highlights for me on the ships was the first time we met, and we spent the whole week, and we'll get into that later, but on our last night, you came to watch the Piano Man show, and it was a thrill for us to dedicate Rocket Man to you.
Yeah, it was. I never missed one of your shows. You and Ann and Nick, they were just terrific. A memorable moment. I remember it well.
Absolutely. In fact, Ann just posted on here. She's watching the show and said, "Hi, Frank. I miss your smiling face."
I miss hers as well.
And she also just commented, "Hi, Ashley. You look beautiful." So this is Ashley. Ashley, she is on the board of supervisors at West Goshen Township in Jefferson County in Pennsylvania. Very, very passionate about the environment and the green movement and sustainability. She speaks Russian, but most importantly, she's my niece. Welcome, Ashley Gagne. Oh, you're muted. Let's take that mute.
No, I got it. Hi, Uncle Terry. Thanks for having me on today. Thanks for being
That's the first time any guest has said Uncle Terry.
I know. I feel so honored.
That's awesome. Well, it's great having you on the show. We've had some amazing guests. I think we're up to about 50 episodes now. And, of course, I'm looking forward to this one. I changed my background because my other one is up there in Phoenix and I'm in Mexico. So I've got this fictitious European coffee shop in my background. So here I am. We start the show as we always do with 3 random questions. And sorry, I'm just looking at people on the feed going, Uncle Terry. That's funny. 3 random questions. We're going to start with you, Frank. Frank, what is your pet peeve?
My pet peeve are aggressive drivers who follow me too closely. And the other one is those who drive in the left-hand lane and ignore the signs that say, slower traffic, keep right.
Both driving. Have you driven in Arizona much?
Well, it's through Arizona, not a lot.
Okay. Well, it would drive you nuts.
I find in rural areas away from the big cities, people are more pleasant drivers. As soon as you get close to a big city, it becomes like a combat zone on the freeway.
Absolutely. It's crazy. But what about you, Ashley? Pet peeve?
Driving, obviously, is always a good one. But I think that the one that I can't stand the most is when, you like hold the door for somebody and they don't say thank you. I just find it so incredibly rude and annoying because I always make sure that I say thank you, to strangers.
You know what? That's Anne's as well. When she holds the door and someone goes through, she goes, "Really? Seriously?"
I can see that.
That's funny. All right. Next question. I'm going to start with you, Ash. If you could go back in time to one moment in time, it could be in your own lifetime or it could be a historical moment. What moment in time would you like to go back to?
this is going to sound really grim, and I realize that, but and this has always been my answer, I would always like to go back in time to see Anne Boleyn's beheading.
Jesus. Okay. You're gonna
I'm a huge fan of the Tudors and Old English royalty, and I would love to see that.
I thought you were going to say I'm a huge fan of beheading. So let me get this right, because we've had some questions, some answers to this. You would like to go back to watch someone have their head chopped off?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I know.
What about you, Frank?
I wasn't quite ready for that, Ashley. So I'm going to pick something a little more obtuse. I would go back to Kitty Hawk, 1903, and watch the Wright brothers' first powered flight.
Yeah, why did I not expect that answer from you? That's great.
It opened a new era in commercial aviation. In aviation in general, it was just a remarkable moment.
I just watched a video on business marketing, and there was a part of it that was talking about the Wright brothers and that they were very poorly funded. And there was somebody else at the time who had technology. I think that was they thought they were going to be the first. Is that right, Frank?
Yes, there was a scientist from who worked like NASA, Samuel Langley.
Okay.
Samuel Langley tried to fly before the Wright brothers off of a ship, but he ignominiously went right into the water. It didn't work very well. But he received significant funding, and two bicycle brothers from Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, actually succeeded.
That's great. Everybody, if you get the chance to go on a cruise ship when Frank Buzzard is on there, go on there, befriend him in the first day. He doesn't drink much, so it's not going to cost you a ton at the bar. Because you get to hear words like ignominiously, and I have no clue what it means, but it sounds so good. That's great. Now, you've actually thrown me now, because I'm looking at some of these things, and Sam Gagne in England said, answers you didn't think you would hear today. Ashley is brutal.
Yeah.
So,
my words a little bit more. All right. I said I should probably watch my words a little bit more, especially in politics, and that's something that I just continue.
No, it's awesome. It's a great answer. And final one, we'll start with you, Frank. If you've got an amazing career, if you could have chosen a different career what would you have done?
I would have been an astronaut.
Oh, yes, I bet.
Yeah, I actually tried, and I was in the final 100 3 times, but I had a wonderful career, and it just wasn't to be. And I'm still very thankful for working with NASA for 30 years.
I bet. If you could have been on Apollo 2, Apollo 11, or Apollo 13, which one would you have chosen?
Wow. Apollo 13 was too scary. I got all the scary I needed flying Chinooks in Vietnam for a year in 1968 and 69 for the 101st Airborne Division. So it would have been exciting to stow aboard Apollo 11, the first lunar landing.
Yeah, I bet. Actually, if you were not on the board of supervisors in West Goshen, what career would you have chosen?
Well,
don't say beheader.
Yeah, no. This is the beginning. So I have career prospects, hopefully, to, climb the political ladder, as you will. I hope I'm not done here. But I went to school for geology. Obviously, I love earth science, and I love astronomy. I minored in astronomy as well. And I probably, though, would have wanted to do something like environmental law, something like that.
Absolutely.
Been involved in kind of more hands-on practices.
Absolutely. Well, let's turn to you, actually. Let's talk about your life and your career. Obviously, I know a lot about it. That's because I've been close to it. But you just, there's so much to talk about. Let's talk about Hawaii, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Hawaii was where the geological stuff started. Is that right?
Yeah. So I spent 3 months in Hawaii working on Kilauea volcano, measuring sulfur dioxide emissions from Kilauea volcano. And it was a life-changing experience. I think when you get to be that close to an active volcano, it's just the kind of experience that sticks with you forever. And it really shaped the way that I think about the environment in a lot of ways, and the way that the environment affects people, especially in Hawaii. And it's just really, I think, I always tell college students that, you can go to school and you can work really hard, you can get good grades. But the thing that I took away from university the most is when I pursued those independent sort of adventures. And there are so many of them out there, no matter what field you're in. You just kind of have to look for them, and your professors are there to help you. And of course, they know about some too. But it was those kinds of things that really made my college experience unique. And I think stepping up there.
I bet. You know the New Zealand volcano that erupted and people were still on the island last year? Do you remember that? Was it last November? There were people from a cruise ship that had gone on the island and then it erupted. I can't remember what the name of the volcano was. It wasn't November when we were there. Yeah, that's what it was. So a week prior to that, we were in Rotorua, which is where the ferry leaves to go to that island. And we were in the midst of those active volcanoes. We got photographs of it, so close, just a week away. It was terrible. Tell me about speaking Russian. This is kind of, I know your mom and dad don't speak Russian, so how did that whole thing come about? Well, first of all, say something to me in Russian.
Что ты хочешь мне сказать?
Oh, yes, thank you. What did you say?
I said, what do you want me to say?
Oh, okay. So how did the interest in that start? And how easy was it to develop a knowledge of the language?
So the interest started because I feel like I kind of always want to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. And a lot of other people around me were taking Spanish or French. And I wanted to study something with a whole new language, like a whole new alphabet that I would have to learn, just kind of start from scratch, And also there's just this kind of mystery that surrounds Russia that, as a student who grew up in the United States, you don't really learn about the culture there. You kind of learn about the history, the Cold War, everything. And so there was just a fascination there. And once I started taking classes in college, it just opened up a whole new understanding of the country, and it just kind of stuck, and I just loved it.
Interesting. Sam in England said he actually translated what you said in Russian, and he said you said, "I'd like to see you beheaded." I don't know. That's going to stick with you right now.
I can confirm that Ashley's translation was correct.
Oh, so you speak Russian as well?
I speak enough Russian to get in trouble, having worked with Russia as a partner in the 16 nations of the International Space Station. But sadly, I don't speak enough Russian to get out of trouble. In Russia.
There are ways to get out of trouble in Russia. And
there are ways to get in trouble also.
There are also many ways, yes.
Have you been to Russia last week?
You're asking?
Yeah, have you been there?
Yes, twice.
Which parts?
I spent a lot of time in Moscow at Moscow State University, and a brief time in St. Petersburg, but I spent 2.5 months in the Kola Peninsula, which is above the Arctic Circle.
Wow.
And on the White Sea.
Well, how about you, Frank? Have you spent much time in Russia?
I spent many, many trips to Russia. probably 15 to 20 in Moscow, 3 or 4 in St. Petersburg, multiple times at Baikonur, a child of the Cold War at the secret Soviet launch site I never thought I would see. What a great opportunity.
Wow. I feel so inferior to my...
Oh, please, don't do that.
Both of you. Well, I've been to Russia. I went to St. Petersburg, and I went there twice. I loved it. But one day we went out, there was Anne and Nick, I think, and myself and someone else. And so we did the tourist things, and I think we spent 8 hours is it the Hermitage?
The Hermitage, yeah.
So we spent about 8 hours there. Nick enjoyed it for about 8 seconds, maybe 10. Still talks about it wasn't not his thing, but we loved it. But one of the coolest things that ever happened to us was that, as you know, St. Petersburg used to be Leningrad, and during the Cold War, Billy Joel went to Russia and did a concert over there. A big part of the communication during getting rid of the Cold War, and he wrote a song called Leningrad, which was about a circus town. It's a fantastic song. So as we sailed away from St. Petersburg, we did Leningrad in our show, and it was just a thrill because I grew up in Manchester. Didn't think I was going to be on a cruise liner leaving St. Petersburg singing about Leningrad. That was great. Ashley, do you have children?
Yes, they do.
How many?
I have 3 children, ages 6, 4, and 2.
6, 4, and 2, and tell us their names.
Alex is 6. He's my oldest. He's a boy, obviously. Natalie, and Kieran is 2.
Awesome. And they're beautiful and wonderful children. Mark's awesome as well. I've never met Mark, which is insane.
Actually, you have met Mark.
Really? When?
We came to see you guys. Where was it? It was somewhere. It was like Lancaster. You guys were doing the ABBA show.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that at? I know when that was. That was at.
Yeah. Where was it?
It was Lancaster. It was in the Dutch Apple Dinner Theatre.
Yes, exactly.
That was the worst gig we've ever done.
Oh my God. I remember you saying that.
I apologize to Mark then. I want to put that to rights.
Hey, that's okay. Mark is an astrophysicist, by the way, Frank. So.
Mark is an astrophysicist?
Yes.
I think we need it. Anne's put in there. Sorry, I've got to go back to these viewers. First of all, we've got 5 or 6 of them saying, you look about 21, you can't have 3 kids. And then everyone's saying, you have met Mark. And saying, Terry, you're having a senior moment. Nick said, can't believe you forgot about meeting Mark.
Can't believe it. He's right. Total senior moment, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm 61 now. I'm losing it. That's in the plot.
No, it's totally cool.
But Alex plays piano.
He does, and he has a virtual recital coming up.
Does he really? He has a virtual recital coming up?
Yeah. So I always played, piano. Rex, please stop. I always played piano as a kid. I never really had formal lessons. Well, I did, but I just didn't stick with it. And so I really wanted to make sure that Alex, who showed an interest in piano at an early age, had the lessons. And he does really well with it. He does a lot better with lessons than I did as a kid. And he's committed. He's
good.
Perfectionist. He's a perfectionist piano player, which is really cool.
It really is. Well, I don't know if you know, but we have a show called Piano Men Generations.
Yes.
And we had one moment. Frank, I'm not sure if you know this now. Nick and I do a show called Piano Men Generations, where I do most of the Elton John stuff, and Nick does most of the Billy Joel stuff. And we have 2 grand pianos face to face. And there was one moment that Sky, about maybe 6 years ago, when my dad came over and we had the 3 of us on stage.
Oh, how exciting.
And it was. So we're going to have to find a gig somewhere where Alex is on in the middle of the 2 of us. We'll make that happen.
Yeah, I would.
Was that the big family reunion we had when he came and all three of you were doing?
I think it was, well, I say 6 years ago now. This was, it wasn't our wedding, that's for sure. So maybe that was my 50th.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. So I guess that was 11 years ago. Anyway, Nick said, I'd love a virtual recital. Just play Hungarian Rhapsody on YouTube and mime on a keyboard. No one would know.
So true. I know. I feel like he can cheat, you know?
Exactly. Well, we're going to have Alex on stage with us at some point. I'd love to do that. It would be awesome. Ashley, you're great. I love you so much. It's been great on the show. Now, Sam's asking, can you let him know which moisturizer you use?
Oh, my God.
You kids when you look 19. That's great. Let's talk about
moisturizer. That's a funny thing.
What was that?
So I don't even use moisturizer.
She doesn't use it. There you go, Sam. He's got no answer to that. Frank, you're in Colorado at the moment, but life started in 1947. Am I right?
I was born in Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, in 1947, and my family moved to north of Denver, Longmont, Colorado, in 1960. And it was a wonderful time to grow up in Colorado, and now I'm thankful to be back. I live in about 2 hours west of Denver in the Vail Valley, and it's a lovely place.
Excellent. And of course, as you know, Nick is getting married in Colorado, marrying Julia next year. We're excited about that. We're excited about it. 30 years with NASA. I met you on a ship. I still talk about you to this day. I think you're the most interesting man I've ever met. I would get up on a ship normally and wonder what to do. And when I'm on a ship with you, I just want to know where you are so we can chat. Your stories are incredible. But tell us a little bit about your early career. I know you flew the Chinook in Vietnam and some of that early stuff before NASA.
Yeah, I spent 5 years in the Army as a helicopter pilot. And then I decided that I wanted to work in the space program and work for NASA. So I left the Army and I went back to the University of Colorado in Boulder. I had done 2 years of college before going in the military, and I went back and completed my degree in aerospace engineering. I worked at General Dynamics in San Diego for a couple of years on the Atlas Centaur, Titan Centaur program. In fact, one of my early jobs was to do all of the targeting that sent the Mariner, Jupiter, Saturn probes, now called Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 in the 1970s to Jupiter. And I'm proud to say I must have done it correctly. They both got to Jupiter, and now both of those spacecraft are leaving our solar system, the sun's influence, and we're beginning to measure the magnetic field of the Milky Way galaxy itself, of which we are a part.
You lost me after about 4 words, but it's still so interesting. I remember on the ship you do lectures about various parts of the space program and so on. And I remember there was a lecture you did where you showed us the size of the Earth. I believe it was in a PowerPoint presentation, and it filled the screen. And then the Earth came down in size, and you had our planets.
Yeah.
And it came down, so you had our planets like this. And then you went out, and our Earth became this big, and our planets were up there. And then you came out and out and out. And sorry, I don't remember the name of the entities you're referring to. But by the time you got to the end, we were less than a speck of dust.
We disappeared with respect to the size of some of the largest stars in our galaxy. And it's amazing to me that our what might be called an insignificant planet has people actually looking up there, wondering if there's other life.
It's amazing. I remember you talked about the band, I believe it's our Milky Way. the band where life could exist as we know it. And what were the numbers on that when you talked about? I think the election began with, is there life out there?
Well, we actually don't know if there's life out there. It'll be an extraordinary finding if there is. It will also be an extraordinary finding if there is not. So either one of those outcomes has got to be just amazing. It's inconceivable to me that there isn't other life, and much of it may not have anything to do with life as we know it, Terry.
No, exactly.
It could be completely different.
Or in this time continuum, if you like, because we're talking about such massive distances. We're not really talking about distance, but more of a time.
Yeah, incredible distances. There are 200 roughly billion stars in our galaxy. Most of them probably have planetary systems. So there are many, many places, but they are so far away. We can't conceive of traveling even to the nearest star, 4.5 light years. Its light takes 4.5 years to get to us from Alpha Centauri. For us to travel, even at the fastest humans have ever traveled, would take thousands of years to get to the nearest star. And they're far, far bigger distances than that.
It's mind, 200 billion stars with planetary systems potentially, and we're the ones that got COVID-19. How does that?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I have no answer.
Today's a special day. What's happening today, Frank?
Today is, we're on the verge of a new era in commercial spaceflight, humans flying into space. SpaceX, Doug Hurley and Bob Behnke are at the Kennedy Space Center. They are in the Crew Dragon spacecraft. It's scheduled for liftoff at 4:33 p.m. Eastern time. And it will be the first commercial launch, the first that wasn't NASA or Russian Soyuz or a government program. So it's a remarkable new opportunity, I would say, to this team, Godspeed, Doug and Bob, and the NASA and SpaceX team, because if it's successful, it will be an entirely new era.
No, it's amazing, really. I mean, again, I'll be watching it today.
I will myself.
And praying for success.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. It seems inevitably when you talk about something you do, people veer towards the disasters. We always, we go towards it, Apollo 13 or Apollo 1. Where were you when the Challenger disaster?
I was on the roof for the first launch that I had been to the Kennedy Space Center, standing next to Challenger's crew's family. I had worked all of the previous launches in Houston. I was a guidance officer in the Mission Control Center. And so that was the first time. So it was a pivotal moment in my life.
Did you know right away?
Yes. Yes, I did. And so did the families.
Wow. Well, what a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. What year was that?
What year was that?
Yeah, what year was that? Do you remember?
January 28th, 1986.
86. Actually, how old were you then?
-2.
I remember I was in Granada Hills when we saw it. Yeah. And then you had the Columbia disaster, and you. Yes. I believe you were part of the investigating team. Is Sally right on that? Is that correct?
Yes, I led the NASA part of the investigation and spent an entire year with the Columbia Accident Investigation Board and the interface with Admiral Hal Gaiman, who's on the right in that photo. Terrific leader, learned a lot from him. And of course, Sally Ride was in the middle of that photograph, was our first American woman in space. The first woman in space was actually a Russian, Tereshkova.
Wow.
And I had the opportunity to meet her once in Moscow. Lovely lady.
Here's a question for both of you. If there's one more, and it's probably two completely different answers here. If there's one moment in your career, not your personal life, but your career, that you could pinpoint as the most memorable, whether it be positive or negative or pivotal, is there a moment in your career and you go, I always think back to that, right?
Challenger, I think, was so unexpected and so tragic for all of us that we dedicated ourselves to making a better, safer shuttle. So, yes, I'll never forget that moment.
I bet. Ashley, what about you? Is there a moment when...
Nothing compared to that. I'll tell you that much. Nothing compared to that.
Actually, all life's opportunities and challenges are equally comparable to that one.
Absolutely. I think it's the moment you realize that you don't need moisturizer.
Yeah, that was a big one. I have to admit.
It's amazing. We're going to go to the part of the show we call "Where in the World is Terry?"
Where in the world is Terry?
Where in the world is Terry?
Okay, so this is the part. This started off with me traveling around the world and changing my virtual background. And of course, as most of you know, I'm here in Mexico right now. So I changed my background in the most... You know what that is? You know what that is? Bob's Burgers. I guess it's a popular...
What is it, like The Simpsons or something?
Something like that. It's called Bob's Burgers. I don't know. And that's a lounge in just about every airport right now. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put me in a movie. Here's how it works. I'm going to change my virtual background. I'm going to start with you, Ashley. You're going to tell me what movie I'm in. Frank can't help you unless you don't know it, and then Frank can swoop in for the $1 prize. Okay? So, here we go. This is just for Ashley. Ashley, what is the title of this movie?
Ooh. It's the one with Matt Damon. It's not Mission to Mars. Mars?
No,
A Martian.
The Martian.
What a great movie.
That
was a terrific movie. I've often had people ask me how technically accurate was this movie, and I would say at least 90%, which surprised me. And having, worked with NASA and knowing about the environment and space stations and things like that, they did a terrific job. The book that the movie was based on was actually written by a former NASA employee, so he had a technical background, and they did a good job reproducing it.
Wow. Hey, Ashley, if you could only watch one movie for the rest of your life, what would it be? What's your favorite movie?
Twister. And we watched it the other day.
Twister. Wow, you're brutal, aren't you?
Fantastic movie.
It is a great movie.
Written by Michael Crichton.
I was expecting some love story in Russian.
No. Twister. Best movie of all time.
It is a fantastic movie. Wasn't there like a Twister ride?
Yeah, there was. That was you or something.
Yeah, I remember Nick wouldn't go on that. He was scared.
It was kind of lame. It wasn't that good.
That was only 2 weeks ago when he wouldn't go on that good. He was not. Frank, we're going to give you a movie now. I
just watched it 2 nights ago, and I cried for an hour afterward. It was Titanic, because it was such an extraordinarily well done done movie, not the Night to Remember years and years ago, but the 1997 blockbuster James Cameron, and it was a great movie.
And ironically, Anne and I watched Titanic, and I cried a couple of nights ago, but it wasn't that. It was a cable version, a movie with the Welsh actress that is married to Michael Douglas. What's her name?
Catherine Zeta.
That one, yeah, with her in it, and it was awful, and I paid $3.99, so I cried. So with this myself, but I wanted to watch that. Now, I am changing my background here, and this should be easy, but maybe not so. This is for Frank.
Well, that's the crawler, and it's carrying a rocket out to the pad. So let's look here a little. Those are Apollo-era spacesuits. Neil Armstrong in the background. So this would be Apollo 11,
That's
July 20th, launched.
Apollo 11. Have you seen that movie, Ashley?
No.
1969.
It's taken original footage, turning it into 4K because it got all the original.
Was that released recently? Like, is it a newer movie?
Yeah, like 2 years. So it's taking I believe if I've got this right, we're taking the 70mm footage, and they had miles of it and converted it into 4K. Is that correct, Frank?
I don't remember, but if it's what I think it was, what's the big, huge wraparound widescreen? I've forgotten. I think IMAX. I think it may be an IMAX movie.
Yeah, I've seen it, and at home, and it's fantastic. But
yeah.
So here's another question: where were you on that day when Neil Armstrong said? One small step for man?
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And what an unbelievable thing to say. Remarkable.
Unscripted, unrehearsed, I'm led to believe.
Yeah.
Frank,
I actually borrowed a Chinook and flew from near the city of Wei to Da Nang to a flight school buddies. In Da Nang, they had TV. We didn't have in July of 1969. So I told the maintenance officer I'd be happy to go to Da Nang and get some parts for him. And we watched Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin get out on the moon. That was...
Wow. What were you about to say, Ash?
I was just saying, Frank, I feel like you could narrate maybe a documentary or something. I think you have a great voice for that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
No, it's great watching his lectures. The lectures are amazing. I believe they talk about the Apollo program. One I don't know how accurate it is, Frank, but one of the great series of DVDs I watched was called From the Earth to the Moon. That was narrated by Tom Hanks.
Yeah, very excellent show.
Yeah. So trust my son Nick Davies to come in with a question, but he said, Frank, what would you say to the people who think the moon landing was fake?
I would say they should join the Flat Earth Society. And because we have the famous Apollo 8 picture, Earthrise from the moon, it's clearly round. So they have fellow non-believers they can commiserate with, I guess.
I love it.
I know it happened. That hardware is up there, and somebody's going to salvage a few of those important things and bring them back.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever go back to the moon?
I'm confident we will.
I'd love to see that. Well, what an interesting show this is. It's crazy. I'm going to move to the question that I ask every guest on every show, and very excited to hear these answers. The question is this. If you could spend the next 60 minutes with any two people at the same time, two people, dead or alive, it could be in your lifetime, or it could be historical, or anything at all, any two people that are alive in any one place on Earth, who would you like to spend the next hour with? Where would you go, and what would you talk about? And I'm going to start with Ashley.
This is harder than you think.
I know.
So I was thinking about this. I think that one of them would definitely be Jane Goodall, and we would be in Africa, and I would just love to spend time with her there and kind of just, watch the chimps and hear what she has to say and just watch her engage with them. I think that would be so neat.
Yeah, how interesting.
That would be a cool one. And I was trying to think of something else. I don't know. I'm tea with the Queen, maybe?
The Queen?
Yeah, sure. I love her. I love Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I think that she's a really powerful, just amazing woman who's seen so much and who's...
Yeah. This is season 2. So I think we're at the end of our second week. So about 14 days ago, we did episode 1 on this season. We had Ken Gavin, who was Princess Diana's official photographer for her entire life. And one of the official photographers for the royal family, the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones, and the Jackson 5, and George Best, and goes on. If you get a chance, go on YouTube, TED Talk, and look at season 2, episode 1 with Ken Gavin. Boy, he was interesting. He's incredible. He was there. All those iconic pictures at the funeral, were taken by Kent. And it's interesting because when he answered the question, which 2 people would you be? He said, I'd want to be in the hotel with Princess Diana and tell her not to get in that damn car.
Yeah.
And and even now I've got goosebumps thinking about it. Amazing. Frank, 2 people, 1 place, anywhere. What will you talk about?
Well, first, I'm glad Ashley didn't say one of her 2 was Anne Boleyn. So my choices would be first Neil Armstrong. He was a civilian test pilot in the X-15. He was not military. And I think it is a remarkable destiny. And I would talk to him about his destiny, his humbleness, his commitment, his incredible flying skills. Number 2 would be Thomas Jefferson, because I think he was an extraordinary, brilliant man and greatly helped establish the American opportunity, which is based on the Constitution and the freedom, and recognizes that human nature can be abused and provides checks and balances to power, to the abuse of power that is so important. I would talk to him about that.
That's fantastic. These are fantastic answers. I feel like we need to get all 4 of your people in one room.
Yeah, that'd be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, something else. Hey, actually, one thing we didn't chat about briefly was some craziness happening in the world right now, obviously, and COVID-19 and what we're actually going to be at the end of it. And I know you're very much into the concept, the idea, the real idea of sustainability. And how do you feel that? I've seen posts all over the place that the Earth is repairing itself. You see pictures of Venice. You see pictures of some of the wildlife in the ocean. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I've read, look, I'm an optimist when it comes to the environment and the planet. I really like to believe that there's hope for humanity to do the right thing, and for us to get to a place where we can live sustainably, where we can continue to, work and have kids and have lives, but also not destroy the planet. And I've read some of those articles about, the Earth repairing itself. And on one hand, it's definitely true. Look, the price of oil has dropped. People aren't driving as much. Planes aren't flying as much. Manufacturing's, taken a huge hit. Even the meat industry, which the meat industry is a huge contributor to greenhouse gases and climate change, is suffering right now. And so you can say that the Earth is repairing itself, and it is true. But I think that As if we don't, this is a wake up call for us. And if we don't make the change, then it's really just going to fall back into what it was before. And so really it's our responsibility. And this virus is as natural as we are, as anything else, you know? I mean, we are not masters of the planet. We can be taken down by a virus, an invisible virus.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just important to be grateful for the fact that we're even here. And, you know, every day I hope that things start to get better. I really do. And I have faith in humanity. I think that a vaccine will come.
Well, it's great to see, and I'm very proud as an uncle, but also as a human, to see you in your small part of the world doing something so conscientiously about it. It's so good to see. I was very proud to see you get voted onto that board.
Thank you.
Told everybody. We have some questions I want to get to before we end the show. Drew Balo, who works for TED over here in Phoenix, has asked you this question. I don't know if this is relative to you, Frank, but it says, let me go. I've been wanting to ask Frank, does he have any stories from the outpost in Clear Lake down NASA Road 1 from Johnson?
I do indeed, and none of them can be shared in this audience.
So there's your answer, Drew. I want to get Drew's take on that. I want to know what stories he has, because he obviously knows something about that. Sam in England, I think, facetiously said, "What? The Earth isn't flat?" And
no, it's not.
No, exactly. And Sam said to you, actually, your outlook is incredible. He also said he hates you because you don't need moisturizer, but that's exactly. And Beth, who actually with Jan runs our cruise division, she's up in Rhode Island, said for you, actually, they were a great reminder to be humble with regard to our very existence.
Yeah.
So nice comment.
Here.
And I guess there's a question there for Frank from Nick. If space travel ever got more commercial and accessible to the public in our time, would you want to travel into space? And is there anything specific you'd like to see with your own eyes?
I would like to see, I would just like to see Earth, this magnificent creation Earth, without international boundaries, without conflict, and with clear skies and clean water that you could actually see it from space. Yes, I would. I'm not sure I'm as brave as John Glenn, who went back to space on the space shuttle in his late 70s, I believe. So I'll be 73 in August, and it better happen soon, or I probably won't be buying a ticket to space.
And just a reminder for anybody who wasn't here at the beginning of the show, going over Frank's career reads like this: served as chief engineer for the space shuttle, chief engineer for the International Space Program, International Space Program, program director, senior system integration manager, and amongst his awards includes Distinguished Service and Exceptional Service medals. Incredible career, and a wonderful, humble, and intelligent man. That's my honor of knowing you, Frank. That's for sure.
My honor to know you, Terry.
We'll have to get together in Colorado.
Yeah, I'll look forward to it.
I'm going to squeeze an invite out of Nick and Julia. It's been great having both of you on the show. Hasn't this been, to all the viewers out there, hasn't this been great? We've seen some amazing guests all the time, and this is a little veer away from the normal, but this has been so interesting. And Ashley, it's been great to chat with you and see you. I think apparently I saw you only 6 years ago, but I don't remember that. That's crazy. Looking forward to seeing the kids. Looking forward to meeting Mark for the second time. And you look awesome. It's been great spending this time with you. Frank, you're amazing. I told all my co-workers at TED that Frank Buzzard was coming on the show, and the one thing I knew that was going to happen is that they wouldn't want the show to end, and I think you both contributed to that in the biggest way. So thank you both. If you're not doing anything, let me see, about an hour and a half from now, you should be able to see a rocket take off.
Yes.
A new era in space travel. So
I will be watching.
Yeah. Don't do what they did on Apollo 13. But if you remember, prior to that oxygen tank blowing, no one cared anymore.
Yeah.
Only Apollo 13. Apollo 11, we landed on the moon. It was only 2, and we were like, yeah, we're going to the moon, big deal. It is a big deal. And watch it, support it. It's great. Ashley and Frank, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been TED Talk episode 12. I've loved it today. We will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow our host is Sam Payne in England, so no doubt Ashley is going to be watching the show and giving Sam some crap. Definitely. And he's got 2 phenomenal guests. Kalo is one of our comedy vocalists from the UK, and Jackie Graham, who had those hits in the 1980s, I believe, with Motown and the Sound of Philadelphia. And that's tomorrow on the show with Sam Payne. Thanks for joining us on TED Talk. We'll see you again tomorrow. Be safe.
Do svidaniya, y'all. Paka, Ashley.